And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. I've done Naruto, I've done Sasuke, we gotta talk about Sakura next. Also done Hinata, Kakashi. Did I do Kasame? I want to say I did Kasame. No, you know what? I remember I did Haribel, who would have had Sharpedo on her team. And Kasame also would have that. It's actually a good question. I don't know how many Naruto characters I have done. You know what? I think I've done Sasori, too. So I've done a good chunk of Naruto characters, but there's still a large chunk out there that need to be on the list. And Sakura, the original 3 members of Team 7. So Sakura actually wasn't all that difficult to create a team for. She's got several gimmicks to her. She's exceptionally powerful, particularly with her super strength. She is an expert healer. She's also immune to Genjutsu, as we find out in the light novels. And she was the apprentice to Tsunade, and several other abilities that go with it. So let's just get into it. Her immediate starter, I knew it had to be something that, if we are looking at Naruto from the guise of, all right, what is her starter Pokemon? Well, I actually think it would have been a Stuffle leading into Beware. Beware is notoriously, especially if you look at the anime, powerful. It can just crack trees like it's no one's business. It doesn't even know its own strength. This, I think, makes it a perfect kind of starter Pokemon for Sakura, as I don't think healing would be the immediate thing she starts with as a Pokemon trainer. I think power and strength is the first thing she starts with. Then to start off with a Stuffle shows that it would show the more younger, naive part of Sakura's, not growing up, but where she started from. But as she grew older, obviously, in a Shippuden, she became much more confident and powerful. And to add on to the why it works for Sakura angle, it's partly pink. So there you go. In fact, actually, pink, white, and black, those mostly make up, and a little bit of cream color in there too, like a salmon cream. That's really mostly what makes up Sakura's outfit. So there you go. But I knew I needed a couple other fighting types on the team, because that is predominantly her fighting style, is fighting. But I also knew I needed Mon that would be able to work with healing on some level. So while I do have Healing Mon on the team, I knew for a fact I wanted to try to find a fighting Pokemon that could also do that. And what I ultimately ended on is Palmot. Why? Because it has Revival Blessing. Now, Revival Blessing, I think, maybe works a little bit better for something like Resurrecting the Dead. But because Pokemon don't die in the game, they just faint, this works too. Add on the fact it's a fighting type, a pretty powerful one at that. I've never hated Palmot's design. I hate the fact it's a 3-stage evolution, though, with Palmo just looking like a smaller version of it. I've always hated that. But if you were to just go from Palmy to Palmot, I don't think there would have been any issue whatsoever. That, or just make this look a little better. I mean, it's not a bad design, but its hands never make sense for a fighting type, in my opinion. Not at all. If anything, Zeraora, like a lot of people said, Zeraora should have been, that is a literal electric fighting type design for Zeraora. That should have been a fighting electric type, but whatever. So yeah, Palmon I think works there. Then the last Mon I had added to the team, which is only our third Mon, is Hitmonchan. Why? Well, where are you? Hitmonchan. Why? Because it fights with punches, and while Sakura does use more than just punches, she also uses her legs. Her primary attacking style is throwing a punch. And so Hitmonchan also has a high enough attack stat that I knew I wanted to add that on there. That's probably the only Mon on this team I might interchange with something else. But otherwise, I'm generally happy with this. But as I said, we also got to move a bit more towards some other traits of hers. For example, she has been known to have a bad temper. Beyond that, though, immunity to Genjutsu. Now, I did actually want to integrate that into this. The problem is that when we deal with things like illusion casting in Pokemon, there's no real techniques. There's an ability called illusion, but there's nothing that's like Genjutsu per se. And like the best you get is like hypnosis, double team, things along those lines for quote unquote illusions. So for immunity, I figure let's get something that's got insomnia, something that is immune to falling asleep. And I won't go villain. First off, Amon I have not put on a team before. I need to get a better image. I picked that. That's a little bit of a blurred image, as will the next mon be. But point being, Scovillain I liked because it's a spicy, fiery grass Pokemon, which lends itself to her attitude, her personality a little bit. It has insomnia as well, and if you want to get technical, Sakura was not a natural fire user. She had to learn fire style because that's a prerequisite to marrying and becoming an Uchiha. So she learned that to marry Sasuke, which would make sense for Scovillain too, as Scovillain, what is it? Whatever. Its previous evolution, which I'm forgetting the name of right now. It doesn't start as a fire grass type. It is. It's something Skullkid or something or whatever. Point being, it starts off just as a pure grass type. So it actually makes sense that this is something she had this Mon and gave it a Firestone to qualify to be an Uchiha. Like in a Pokemon world, to be part of the Uchiha clan, you need to have a fire type on your team. So that could make sense. Now, beyond that, though, I did also choose another Gen 9 player. She got a lot of Gen 9s on her team, I'm realizing. I didn't even think about this. I went with Sinistcha. Why did I go with Sinistcha? Well, because it is technically got like more like Chai more than anything else. Like Poltergeist is the previous evolution. Sinistcha is a little bit more reminiscent of a Mortar and Pestle. It's, where you would grind something down into a powder and give it to someone, turn into whatever. And that would be very useful in medicine, not to mention that Sinistcha also does have healing moves of its own. This would make sense in the long haul. Now, that being said, also, the last Pokemon on the team I felt was important to have. Well, and most importantly, because, Lady Katsuyu is a summoning of Sakura, so I knew I needed a big slug on the team. And luckily, Gastrodon fits the bill there. And it's pink as well. But it's a little bit more than that. See, I initially kind of wanted to put Goodra on the team because that is a slug-based dragon. And Lady Katsuyu is actually technically considered the strongest summoning of the big three. However, when I'm looking more into it, I'm like, okay, I need something that can learn Life Dew because that's a healing move that can heal other Mon on your team. So that makes sense, and Gastrodon can learn that. But more importantly, for one of the reasons it works, is that Gastrodon can also learn Recover, which works towards Sakura's own healing abilities for herself. Evidently, Sakura has the best healing ability in Naruto to the point where, unless you decapitate her, and apparently that's not a guarantee, the only way to kill her would be straight out incineration. Because she can literally grow a limb back. So, there you have it. Now, the question now becomes, as always, how balanced is this team? And the answer to that is actually, this is a pretty good team for type matchups. The only three actual weaknesses this team has is Psychic for the 3 fighting types. 3 weaknesses to Fairy for the 3 fighting types. And an unfortunate 5 times weakness to Flying. The only one that isn't weak to Flying on this team is Gastrodon. Everyone else does have a weakness to Flying. But what it does have in a 5 times weakness to Flying, it makes up for a 3 times strength against normal, 5 times strength against Ice, with the only one who's not strong against Ice being... Actually, wait, that can't be 5 times strong against Ice. Did I count that right? Well, those 3 are strong, and Scovillain's got Fire. Poltergeist, no, and Ground... No, Water isn't strong against Ice. Sorry. 4 times strong against Ice. I don't know why I thought for a minute it was something else that it wasn't. Yeah, why did I put strong against Ice there? Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Either way. My bad. Oh, I know why I got confused by that. All right, now I know why. So, 4 times strength against Ice. A 5 times strength against Steel, with the only one who's not strong against Steel being Sinistcha. 3 times strong against Dark types. All 6 being able to take out Rock types with no problem. Half this team is strong against Water types, because you have the 2 Grass types and the Electric type. And then half this team is strong against Ground types with the Water and the 2 Grass. So, while it does have a pretty hefty weakness to Flying, it makes up more than enough of that for a lot of strength against many other types. But the final age-old question, how balanced is this team? And honestly, just starting out, when you get to Kanto, you're not going to run into any problems. Even though Stuffle can't learn a fighting type move until pretty much it evolves into Beware. It still knows Brutal Swing from the get. Well, not from the get, but early on. So it will be able to handle most early gyms without too much difficulty. But you're not going to run into a real problem until you hit Sabrina. And Sabrina is going to be a problem. Now, granted, you'll have your full team there. But I quickly came to realize this, that because Beware isn't super fast, it's going to go down to any fast Psychic type. And then you're kind of in trouble. Now, that being said, you still have a Ghost type that's strong against Psychic types, and two relatively decent Mon on your side as well. So it's not impossible to beat Sabrina by any stretch of the mean. It's just half your team is going down pretty quick. You might be able to take one of hers out too, maybe two, but still. Koga would also be slightly difficult, but not impossible by any stretch, because Ghost resists poison. Sinus Cha is just neutral. Scovillain's the only one who's actually weak to poison, and luckily you should have electric moves and non-fighting moves on a couple of these guys as well, because poison sadly resists fighting. Then really you won't struggle at all until you get to the Elite Four. Like Blaine, you're gonna honestly have no problem with. You'll cleave Giovanni in half. Lorelei and Bruno are both going to be relatively easy. Agatha and Lance, though, are problematic. Why? Because Agatha has poison types on. It's a poison ghost specialist. More actually poison than anything else. Now, Brutal Swing can actually take care of the the ghost types of her team without issue. But Palma can also take care of the Golbat. But the Arbok is going to will be a little problematic to deal with, but not too much because you do have Groudon, a Gastrodon with its ground type moves and probably Earthquake at this point, so you should be okay. But Lance is problematic. The only Mon you can successfully and very coherently take down would be the Gyarados with Palmont and maybe the Aerodactyl as well. But the two Dragonairs and the Dragonite resists electric, so you're right out the gate just neutral with Palmont. It also resists grass and water and fire. So you don't have a type specialty against Dragon. That's going to make Lance pretty difficult to get through. As no Mon here necessarily has pseudo-legendary stats. They got some beefy stats in certain areas, and Beware can certainly throw hands. But you're going to struggle against Lance. I don't think it's impossible, though. What I actually do think is the sweeper, though, is Blue. Why? Because Blue's going to start out with Pidgeot, and as always, you'll start out with Beware. Now, you can take out the Beware, bring in the Palmont. It's going to end up having to take a hit, and being part fighting means it might go down pretty quick to Pidgeot. If it does not, and you take out the Pidgeot, he then sounds at Alakazam, which outspeeds everything on this team. This also means your three fighting types are done. And because he outspeeds, you're going to struggle hard to bring that Alakazam down. Even Sinistcha, for having a type advantage, is not guaranteed to put down Alakazam, just because it also gets outsped. So eventually you're going to probably end up either having a very weak Sinistcha left, or you're going to be down to your last two Mon, pretty much. And now you're saying, well, why would you just throw the fighting types at it? Well, because, you wouldn't, but the Sinistcha might go down first. So if the Sinistcha goes down, you're SOL at that point. So you actually got to be a little strategic about this. If you manage to keep the Sinistcha alive, but still lose your fighting types in the process, mind you, maybe the Palmont survive. Well, no, the Palmont will go down first. So you're never going to get Revival Blessing off with this case. You're then got to deal with the Rhydon, which luckily you do have a type advantage for, so that's not a big deal. But unfortunately, he does carry a grass type, a water type, and a fire type. So the problem here is you are pretty screwed. Mind you, Gastrodon is not going to... Well, Gastrodon goes down to any grass type, so that's the problem. Sinistcha goes down to any fire type, and Scovillain's a bit neutral to all of it, but still not in a good position. I just don't think you're going to be able to beat Blue. In Johto, you're already in trouble because at best, when you go with Heart Gold, Soul Silver, you would have Brutal Swing on the Stuffle, but Pidgeotto, even at level 13, does have Gust, and normal fighting at that level might not survive. If you do survive, though, Bugsy would be your next problem. Yes, because of I allow for being a little, like 1 or 2 levels above, you could have Palmont right here, just because of it evolves at level. Palmo evolves at 18, and then 1,000 steps to Palmont. But the only thing it's actually strong against is the Scyther. So no fighting moves are going to be good here. And the Dark Brutal Swing isn't good either against Bug. So you're going to be struggling through this fight. But if you can get past that, though, it's actually clear sailing all the way to Claire, who once again would be problematic. Now, her Gyarados, no big issue, but her Kingdra and her Dragonairs all resist electricity and all the other typings you have. So get ready for a brawl. Not impossible, especially if Hitmonchan has Ice Punch, which I don't remember if it learns naturally. I think that because the Elemental Punches, it does not learn naturally. But then you get to the Elite Four, and Will is going to be problematic. Tuzatu might be weak to electric, and might be weak to a Brutal Swing from Beware, but it's a Psychic type team, and he's got Executor, he's got Jinx. It's not a good matchup for you, and neither is Koga, who's all poison, which means he's resisting pretty much everything you have, save the Gastrodon, who can only put in so much work on its own. So, and then you got to go through Bruno, and this is assuming you get past Koga. Got to go through Bruno, who actually would be the easiest one. Karen's Dark typing's no issue. But then you got to deal with Lance again, who's got a Charizard, Aerodactyl, Gyarados, and 3 freaking Dragonites. The answer is no. You will not be champion of the Johto region. In Hoenn, you'll have, honestly, a relatively clean sweep, I think, up until you get to Winona. And then you might just be screwed. Because while Palma is an electric type with an advantage against flying, it is also a fighting type. And with 3 very powerful flying types, particularly that Altaria and Skarmory, you very well might just end there. Because if that Palma goes down, you do not have an answer for her team. You just don't. In fact, that's your ace in the hole. You might actually just want to start with everything else, hope you can take it all down before then, and then throw the Palma out. Because otherwise, you're in trouble. Very much so. So, yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think you stop at Winona if I'm going to be completely transparent here. I don't think you get past Winona. Even using Revival Blessing, I just don't think it would matter. Because you only got one Mon with any sort of advantage against flying on this team. And the rest of it, and it's still weak to flying. That's the kicker. Like the Pelipper, don't worry about the Pelipper. The Swallow, don't worry about that. But the Steel and the Skarmory and the Altaria are problematic, to say the least. Even if you could get past them, you would struggle with Liza and Tate. Although the lower half of your team actually should be able to handle them relatively easy. And then you would really not have that much issue with the Elite Four until Drake showed up. And at that point, then Drake is going to just cleave through your team. The Flygons alone are problematic with Earthquake. Altaria, again, has Aerial Ace on it. Salamence, you don't have an answer for. So, yeah. No, you can't become champion in Hoenn either. I don't think. But if you could get to Steven, you actually wouldn't have a huge struggle with Steven. Mind you, some of them would be difficult, but like the non-steel types on the team can be taken out with Gastrodon because of the water typing, say for Cradily. And even then Scoville should be able to handle that, hopefully. It's just you don't have a good matchup against a lot of these teams. I'll say Strike maybe isn't impossible, but it'd be near impossible. Sinnoh, honestly, no joke. With 3 Mon on that team and that Cranidos having the attacks that it does, I just don't think you even get past Rorik. Not with a Stuffle that doesn't have a fighting move under its belt. So, yeah, I'm just going to be straight out honest here. You don't get past Rorik. Moving on. Unova, same issue here. You wouldn't get past Roxy in Black and White 2 because fighting's no good against poison. And even though you might have some electrical moves, I don't think you get past Roxy overall. And then you wouldn't get past, and even then, you wouldn't get past Berg anyway, because you wouldn't get past him in Black and White 2 or in Black and White, because Bug resists fighting as well. And he's got a Whirlipede and a Leavanny and a Dwebble. And honestly, no joke, like you just don't have the level, and you don't have the typing. You don't have the moves for it. Again, Palma's the only one who can do even a little bit of something, and even then, it's probably going down. So, no, you can't get past that. And Kalos, no joke, you're not getting past Viola of all people. Because even if you have a slightly over-leveled Stuffle, brutal to get the Brutal Swing, I think at level 14, that doesn't matter because it's Bug type. So, and the Vivian is not overly tough, but it's still a fully evolved Pokemon stats, and a flying type. With Infestation, Harden on it, and you still didn't get past the Surskit anyway. So, no, you don't even get past that. And then in Galar, you're honestly, you'd struggle a little bit with Alistar, but I think you'd be fine. Again, you'll have Beware with a dark type move at that point, so you should be fine. Scovillain would have a few tricks up his sleeve. But once you get to Raihan, you're pretty effed. You can take out the Sandaconda and the Gigalith without any real concern, thanks to your grass and your water typing. But Flygon and Duraludon, you have no good answer for. The only thing you kind of answer for is with Gastrodon, and even then, not that good of an answer. And even then, you're still gonna have to deal with Flygon, who's still gonna be cranking out its attacks and probably taking down the Gastrodon first. And even if you did manage Raihan, you then got to deal with Leon, who the only thing you have an answer for is Brutal Swing on that Aegislash. That's it. Maybe a fire type move with the Scovillain, but it's probably getting an attack off first, and then before it dies, and then you got to deal with the damn Dragapult, who's going to speed blitz your Beware because if it has Fluffy, the Flamethrower is going to take its ass out. And then nothing else on this team has any answer for that Dragapult. Even if the Beware manages to bring the Dragapult low, it's still probably going down first. And it outspeeds everything on this team. You might use Revival Blessing on the Beware, but then it's still outspeeding the Beware, so it goes down anyway. Even if you take the Dragapult down, you still got to deal with the Haxorus, which there's no mon on the team that has the answer for. So Galar is out of the question. And then, to poison in the wound, to put lemon juice in the wound, Stuffle's going to get his ass kicked by Katie. 3 bug types with double kick onto that Nimble. And you don't have a good, even if you had a fighting type move, it's not good against bugs. So, yeah, no, you're pretty screwed in this scenario. So, and hypothetically, could you even just beat the champion in any region regardless? We already established that you could not beat Blue, Lance, might be able to beat Steven. Would not be able to beat Cynthia for the life of you. Just would not. Because, yeah, the Beware's Brutal Swing could maybe take down the, could maybe take down the Spirit Tomb, but then you're dealing with Rose Raid, or you're dealing with Lucario, or you're dealing with Milotic, or you're dealing with Gastrodon, and then it's just going to be downhill from there, because you're probably going to be moving it. Let's just say it's Lucario. Typing-wise, it's Lucario. That takes it down. Scovillain's probably your best bet. That or Hitmonchan, because it does have the Steel typing. But it's got enough moves to, at minimum, take one of these other guys down, if not both of them. So let's just say that goes down, but Hitmonchan goes down in the process. So then you're going to bring out maybe Sinistchai, and then he brings out, I don't know, Rose Raid. She brings out Rose Raid. It's got poison moves. You might resist it, but it's still going to hurt. You're going to trade blows. That Rose Raid is probably taking down the Sinistchai. So there's that. So then you probably go Scovillain for the fire type moves. Okay, great, groovy. Milotic has Ice Beam, so that's no good. So then you bring out Palmot to deal with the first water type, but then Gastrodon comes out. Use Revival Blessing. My guess would be you'd want to use it on maybe Sinistchai? Maybe? Or because I mean I know you would know what's coming. You know the guard chop's coming. So no, you know what? Maybe you do it on the Beware. It's got better attack stats. Maybe. So then the Gastrodon comes out, wipes that thing out. So now you're down to Gastrodon and Beware. So you go Beware to take that out. Then Garchomp comes, just makes mincemeat of the Beware because it's only at half strength, half HP. And so you do Gastrodon, who has Recover, sure, but that's only stall tactic at that point. So no, you're not beating Cynthia. Alder, right out the gate, you just can't. You're not beating Alder because he starts with a Selgar, outspeeds everything on the team. honestly, Beware's no good against that. You have no actual real good answer for just a pure bug type except for Scovillain. So you bring that out. It's taking a bug buzz probably. So either goes down because of frail defenses or it's almost there. Accelgor might be able to take a fire hit, and even if it doesn't, he's just then going to bring out either Buffalon or Drudagon. So that gets taken down. And at that point, then you bring out Hitmonchan, maybe take down the Drudagon or the Buffalon. Then he just brings out Accelgor. Escavalier, and then so you're struggling against that thing. Eventually, you're down probably to Beware, Sinistchai, Palma. You're down by 2, maybe, and then if he brings out freaking Vanillix, he's using Ice Beam. He'd take down the Sinistchai, no problem. Revival Blessing, maybe your Beware, or maybe your Scovillain. Ultimately, it would come down to Volcarona, and it's going to sweep nearly all the team because ground's no good against Bug with Gastrodon. Yeah, it's got water, but if Quiver Dance has already gone off, which it should have at this point, you're in trouble. So no, you cannot be Alder. And I'm just giving random scenarios here. And then you're not being Iris because you're no good against Dragon. Yeah, you got some fighting type moves against the Hydreigon, but I don't think you're one-shotting the Hydreigon, which means the Hydreigon is getting a lot of damage off on you. And then you still got to deal with the Haxorus, which is her ace, the Drudagon as well, the Lapras, the Aggron, and the Archeops. Like, it's just, you're not in a good way against her. And then Diantha? Halucha's going to take down the Beware pretty quick, let's be honest. Yeah, you could take down the Halucha with the Palmot, but then you got to deal with the Tyrantrum, which admittedly, Tyrantrum and Aurora's not that big of an issue. Fighting type you're strong against, although the Tyrantrum might take down the Palmot before you get a chance to bring back the Beware. It still hits like a tank. So then you're still stuck against the Goodra, the Gourgeist, and the Mega Gardevoir. Against the Goodra, you don't have a good answer. You just got to try to will the damn thing down. Assuming that you've got about half your team left, I'm guessing, maybe. So I'm guessing a Resurrected Beware, maybe that's a good question. I would say probably you have Gastrodon, maybe Gastrodon would, still be. I'd say you'd have Gastrodon, Scovillain, and Beware left. Beware would still only be at a half health to take down, and that's going after the Goodra. After the Goodra, you got to deal with Gourgeist, which luckily Scovillain should be able to handle. And then you got to deal with the Mega Gardevoir, which you just don't have an answer for. It's got, the only thing it's got going for it is it's not resistant to fire. That's about it. Its Fairy type resists the fighting type and the dark type moves of Beware, which it would have on it. Gastrodon is pretty neutral to it, but it's probably going to be going down hard. Yeah, I don't think you're beating Diantha. Already established not beat Leon. What about Gita? Gita is one where I think you could stand a shot if you got all the way to her. But she's just got a weird-ass team. Because she starts out, I believe, with Apathrah? Or was it Apathrah or Veluza? She starts out with. Either way, she starts out with a weird lead. And it's psychic, so your fighting type isn't all that good, but the Beware should be able to throw hands a little bit. Veluza should be able to outspeed a little bit. Then you got King Gambit, who would go down to the fighting type moves. Same with Go-Go. Well, Go-Go would go down to the fire. Honestly, yeah, Gita you probably could beat without too much difficulty. If you could ever get to her. But I don't think you ever would. Anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. What did you think of the team? What would you do differently? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.